My name is Abdulatif Al-Bitawi. I'm the Secretary General and Honorary Vice Chair of the Energy Institute Middle East. For those who might not know the Energy Institute, it is an independent network of professionals spanning the whole energy system. We facilitate debate, we bring together expertise so that the energy can be better understood, managed, and valued. I would like to thank IBM, EI's technical knowledge partner, for helping organizing this webinar. So today, in this webinar, experts from Gazprom, Schlumberger, and IBM will share how oil and gas operators, technology providers, and service companies can collaborate to develop transformational technology to support the world's changing energy needs. We will also learn how to accelerate the pace of our digital transformation journey through the open group OSDU data platform, which delivers unique capabilities and industry-led collaboration across the entire oil and gas ecosystem. If I may invite our first speaker, Dr. Denis Prokofiev, Head of New Technology, Gazprom Net Upstream Division. We will have the first two poll questions, and then I'll hand over to Dr. Denis.
Thank you very much, Abdulatif. Thank you, everybody, for joining this webinar. It's a great honor to speak here. So did we have both questions, Ran? So let's pause a little bit. I saw some interesting results on the first question. Let's just pause for a few seconds and see how do you guys see the reasons for adopting of OSDU in your company. And of course, I saw several answers on the previous question. Never or don't know, so it will be a little bit difficult for those people to answer. Okay, so can we look at the result, please? All right. Well, very interesting results. The first question, I looked at it, and basically it looks like that we have really two audiences in our group. There's some people who obviously belong to the organizations that already embarking on OSDU. So they're implementing OSDU. And probably some people don't know much about OSDU, or maybe don't know even what is OSDU at all. So we'll address both of those audiences. Okay, and you saw the results. The reasons for the for adopting OSDU are very different. So let's talk about experience and value proposition for national oil companies. And let me introduce myself a little bit. I'm really an oil and gas guy. Okay, so I worked in Gulf of Mexico, I worked in Brazil, I worked in United States onshore, Kazakhstan, Sakhalin, West Siberia, so many places, hot and cold around the world. I also led the technology organization and digital transformation organization inside of Gazprom Net, so it really gives me a nice kind of different views on how we can use probably the biggest initiative that energy industry as a whole came up with in the latest years. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And let's really talk about OSDU Forum. Well, first of all, OSDU Forum is who in energy industry. Here on the bottom, you see the best of class of technology companies, the best of class international oil companies, best of class national energy champions. Also, we have a lot of medium and small size companies, which really bring a very important liveliness aspect to our consortium. So the consortium is over 200 members right now and still growing. And it's very important that consortium is delivering actual software tools that could be used in your organization. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. So, what is OSDU Forum creating? OSDU creating essentially two things. It's creating data platform, which is open source tools that your organization can start implementing and getting business value right now. That's one. And second, also super important, OSDU is creating a unified set of standards, which is very important because for too long, our industry has dealt with a situation when there are 70 or maybe 170 definitions of what a well is, right? So every software essentially defines it its own way. So, and I remember as a young reservoir engineer in Shell, I was doing a lot of Excel data transforming and formatting. And I became really good at it. Great job security, okay? We don't want this. We don't want thousands and thousands of highly qualified people do that because it significantly slows us down in terms of making decisions. So the choice is really yours. Your organization might be more interested in standards only, or your organization might be interested in both of standards and the open source software. And there you have really a choice whether you want to adopt a cloud version or on-premise version. So I think we have tools for everybody. Next slide, please. So OSDU can give benefits far beyond the operators, which is national energy champions and international oil companies, okay? It can benefit training of new digital professionals in universities and academia. It benefits suppliers a lot. For example, after Gazprom joined OSDU, we had two of our key IT suppliers, IT integrators, joining OSDU. Why? They wanted to understand what is the course of their anchor customer, Gazprom. They wanted to understand the standards that we're trying to implement internally before we just, roll them down on them as a contracting and procurement standard. Okay, it's super important for government agencies and regulators. For example, in Russia, there's a big initiative right now, which is spearheaded by our Ministry of Energy and our subsoil use agency called Rosnedra on exchanging information with oil and gas companies. Why? Because the government wants to know how much and in what shape we're producing our national treasure. It's also super important for technology and digital ecosystem. Small startups, those startups have zero chance reaching out across Atlantic or Pacific, okay, into premier customers. But actually OSDU gives them this opportunity, both platform and a novel standard to build their application based on, okay? Many of national energy champions run national data storages for petroleum data. And of course, this is a natural place for to be adopted, for OSDU to be adopted. Let's go to the next slide. So even though OSDU started originally by 8 mostly international oil companies, I think the NOC benefits that consortium and its tools can give to the national oil companies are huge. And probably, I would argue, even bigger and larger than they can give to IOCs. Why? Because national energy companies have bigger mandate, bigger social responsibility, mandate and responsibility. They have to develop national technology ecosystem. They have to work governments. They have to orchestrate the whole industry. And of course, it's these companies that control 2/3 of fossil energy resources and a great part of renewables as well. Okay, next slide. So we looked at at what are the key priorities for NOCs. And we do it in a special sub-community of national energy champions that are already members of OSDU. And you see there's a list of 10 key things. So, of course, and you see number one is on-premise or in-country implementation. And we'll have some questions about that. Why is that? Because, well, you probably operate in the countries that have sovereignty and data residency regulations, just like we have in Russia, for example, okay? There are also regular reporting standards because in many ways, NOCs is a vital source of information for the government on understanding how much the country is producing, what is overall health of its national treasure. Very importantly, ICV. OSDU can help to build sustainable in-country value if the OSDU principles and tools are being disseminated in the local technology ecosystem. Okay, and I'll skip on others. You can just read them. Okay, next slide. Next, I will have two cases from two super different companies, actually, Equinor and Gazprom Neft. We're in many ways similar because we both kind of operate in the north, but also very important similarities in between those two very successful cases is that in both companies, we had support of our senior management, essentially from the very beginning. The business leadership realized how OSDU can help Equinor to manage its data. And obviously, oil and gas company makes all the key decisions on data. And Equinor actually was one of the first showcases of true digital transformation that starts with data, okay? And the next slide, this is the success case from Gazprom Neft. And I see a quote from Vadim Yakovlev, who is our head of upstream. Vadim is a big supporter of OSDU. He realized that OSDU can help us a lot in order to reduce our costs, IT costs, reduce our operating costs, and speed up our decisions. Okay, so with this support, you see how quickly we building internal professional network of people who are supporting OSDU and actually starting projects that relate to OSDU. There's no one big program. There's no one big program management. Actually, we have those projects that use OSDU standards popping up like mushrooms in the Russian forest in our organization. And this is great. Let's go to the last slide. Of my presentation, where are we going? So obviously, OSDU stands for Open Subsurface Data Universe, but actually we're starting to call it Open Energy Data Universe. So the consortium itself is focused right now on the delivery of the core functionality, and this is upstream production, drilling, wells, development, etc. At the same time, we're thinking about our pipeline, and our pipeline would be to add new sources of energy, really, into the data domain. Okay. Now, I'd like to finish up with saying that OSDU can provide value now, and those of you who are representing the members of OSDU, you can do a lot in your organizations already. And those of you who represent the companies which are not part of OSDU, I can tell that OSDU can provide value now, just like it provided value inside of Gazprom Neft. And also, you can participate any way you want, and you can take from OSDU what you want. Be it just standards, take it standards. Be it tools, even though the consortium is still, you see, it's growing, it's developing, it's a very lively and, it's still a young tree. But Alex and Darius will tell you about what tools are available today to build business cases in your companies, both cloud and on-premise. And those tools will surely help you to get out value from this consortium. Thank you very much.
Let me now introduce the second speaker, Darius Petrovsky, the Director of Global Solutions, Industrial Sector in IBM, As I said, IBM is AI's technical partner.
Thank you, Abdul Latif, and thank you to the audience for answering the questions. They are quite interesting results. I see a fair amount of interest in multi-cloud and hybrid cloud strategy, or on-premise, as well as just hybrid cloud solutions that you are interested in. That's very encouraging, because in my part, I would be speaking about what IBM perspective on OSDU is, and will be addressing the hybrid cloud topic. But let me start with thanking the Energy Institute organizers for this kind invitation. It's a privilege speaking to such a great audience, and speaking to the people who are representing companies that form very important part of the oil and gas global community. On the next slide, I'd like to tell you a little bit about why IBM is involved in Open Subsurface Data Universe community, and what we've been doing, and what, in subsequent slides, what we are planning to do. So first of all, as Dennis have mentioned, this is indeed a very strategic, very critical initiative in oil and gas community that IBM has been supporting for decades. It's addressing key problems of accessing data, sharing the data, making it available for advanced analytics, and effectively making better decisions at your companies in a very unique way. Many companies have been trying to address those data accessibility and availability problems in the past. There has been initiatives that failed a little bit over 10 years ago. And what we've seen with OSDU is a very sensible approach of community of oil and gas companies coming together, defining what they want to accomplish, determining that managing data and accessing the data is not a competitive competence of theirs, but a common utility that needs to work. And rather than doing it in separate individual ways, spending fortune on fairly complex initiatives, they combined forces to develop such a data platform. And doing it in an open way is also something that IBM found very appealing. As some of you might know, a few years ago, IBM acquired Red Hat, one of the largest open source company, and the spirit of open source and supporting open source initiatives is at the very core of IBM DNA. So we've joined the OSDU initiative in 2019, fairly early. We have not been one of the first technology companies, but we immediately joined when we've seen that this movement is really taking shape, and allocated dedicated team and fairly sizable annual investment to make sure that we are supporting the community in a meaningful way. So with this, we've been able to release our first OSDU-based product that provides the data management and basic data capabilities to the industry last year. And that product is in the process of testing and evaluation by a number of companies. And we'll talk about the most important uptake of the product from Schlumberger a little bit later in the deck. On the next slide, I also wanted to highlight a key feature of IBM contribution to the OSDU community. Being it open source, it doesn't mean that it, by design, it can run anywhere. And what we believe is fairly unique contribution of IBM technology is its ability to run on multiple infrastructures that oil and gas companies have. And this is aligned with IBM hybrid cloud strategy that we've betted IBM business on. And this is the underlying foundation of this rationale is that we recognize that the data resides in multiple places. And having data on one or two or even three public clouds is unlikely scenario in the world. Many companies like to keep the data on-prem, on their data servers, under complete control. Others are adopting private cloud strategy to realize some benefits of the cloud development and servicing environment. Others are leaning towards regional clouds, clouds like Group 42 in the Middle East, or Yandex, or similar clouds in other parts of the world. So the IBM technology contribution wanted to make sure that the open platform data solution for the industry is able to run on multiple environments. And that's why the underlying technology that we've contributed to the OSDU forum provides such a capability. In summary, it's captured on the subsequent slide that lists, that lists those key features of IBM technology underpinning OSDU solution. First of them is the cloud independence. It is the choice of the oil and gas operator to deploy the data platform on the environment of their choosing, whether it's public cloud, private cloud, regional cloud, or on-prem. And this allows ability to operate on the uniform data platform in different parts of the world. So that's what we are calling in-country solution, that depending on the country of operations, especially for those who operate in multiple geographies or jurisdictions, IBM's OSDU solution gives them that freedom of choice that has very strategic value in our opinion. Of course, it has also ability to deploy on edge, which would be particularly important in the next stage of the OSDU evolution, as Dennis has told earlier, where it's no longer open subsurface data universe, but energy data universe, and it's tackling with production data challenges. And in the interest of time, let me, other than, of course, stating that IBM solution by design is very secure, let me talk a little bit about unlocking the data. And unlocking the data in an open source manner, which is particularly important to stimulate innovation and contribution from those startups, as Dennis have said, that this adopting OSDU data platform allows companies that now they can have access to number of unique solutions, but also makes it easier for them to integrate with the key applications that they are already using, like Schlumberger ones, and creating the workflows that deliver value to company operations. But also unlocking the data for artificial intelligence, advanced analytics operations. So moving to the next slide, we at IBM see that IBM contribution to this community gives the oil and gas companies those key elements for the platform to be successful. And as Dennis was pointing that some of the companies are adopting wait and see approach. Let me tell you that many other companies are already actively testing and piloting use of that platform as a means of reducing their costs, allowing better business decisions. And indeed, the contributions of companies like IBM, Schlumberger, and very advanced work that Gazpromnet has done proves that this platform can be put into very practical use. And with help of IBM technology, it builds on, it allows the flexibility, as I mentioned, it allows open sharing of data between applications, really abstracting the data, and allowing AI and advanced analytics at scale, at operational scale. But this is the technology side of things. The key element is making and delivering business value. And that's why the absolutely critical and strategic choice IBM has made early on in our OSDU journey was to partner with Schlumberger, with the industry expertise, the depth, and the very rich set of specific industry-specific tools that integrated with the data platform allows those smart decisions to be made at scale and at speed. And we believe that that combination creates a really unique value for the oil and gas industry. And with that, I'd like to close my part of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Darius, for your presentation. Much appreciated. And let me introduce Dr. Alexander Neber, Global Business Manager for OSDU Schlumberger.
Thank you, Abdulatif. While waiting for the results of the poll, let me thank Energy Institute foremost for inviting me here to this event today. I myself, my background is in geology, lectured in Germany, and I joined Schlumberger in 2007 and several roles in Asia and Europe, lately focusing on business insight and strategic guidance to digital transformation leadership teams inside and outside of our company. Lately, I'm the global lead to define and execute go-to-market strategies, if you want, of the OSDU data platform in collaboration with strategic alliance partners. As we're seeing here in the poll, data residency is an issue which resonates with the participants here. We're going to address that in slide number 2 of my presentation here. I was particularly excited to learn that my fellow speakers here will be Dennis and Darius. They might not remember, but I remember very well when I started my role with the OSDU team in Schlumberger. It was actually on day 1 that I was introduced to Darius and the IBM team, and I was informed we're having a strategic alliance where you saw the results earlier, and you will see some more later in the slides. And on day 2, actually, it was Dennis leading a delegation from Gazprom Neft, where we started to talk about on-prem solutions and the capabilities to deploy OSDU, if you want, in a disconnected environment. Fast forward a year and a bit, here we are talking about success cases. Darius highlighted the changes in the industry, which we experienced. It's not only the E&P industry, it's many industries which are going through this disruptive digital transformation, where data is taking a key role in decision-making. It's of crucial importance, if we go to the next slide, please, to highlight what is the commitment of everybody who is in the OSDU. That has been stressed out by Dennis as well at the beginning. There's a huge commitment from each of the active contributors in the consortium. Schlumberger itself open sourced the data ecosystem originally developed for the Delphi Cognitive E&P environment in 2019, which meant we contributed an effort of 200 person-years of development to the OSDU. We contributed core storage, indexing, and ingestion services to optimize the access to data. In 2020 and 2021, we saw this year the release of the R3 Mercury OSDU. We had the last 2 years, 15 full-time experts assigned to OSDU work streams and management committees, which additionally delivered 100 person-years of development effort. And in the R3 release, I believe 2/3 of the source code, which has been released there, is coded by Schlumberger. This is a very strong commitment from Schlumberger, and we're all in on the OSDU. If we go to the next slide, a couple of highlights why we choose IBM as a strategic partner to bring our technologies to markets which we couldn't address with our public cloud solutions. The key regions benefiting from the portability of the OSDU platform with Red Hat OpenShift are Russia, China, the Middle East, and largest parts of Africa. There are several reasons why our clients there can't access the public cloud. That might be, as per the question before, data residence regulations, which don't allow them. There's also the quality of telecoms networks and the proximity of data centers. As we started our journey into this region and deliver solutions which are fit for purpose for the specific regions, we're enhancing our relationship with local cloud providers. We do that in combination with Red Hat and IBM. We addressed some of or announced some of these in earlier press releases. So in Russia, as an example, we work together with Yandex Cloud to bring technology to our clients. In the Middle East, we're particularly working in the Emirates with Group 42. And I'm happy to share with you that we have the first OSDU on-prem installation successfully launched in one of our own research labs in China in the last 2 weeks ago. And that's the first on-prem installation of OSDU in a disconnected environment. What we installed there, I'm going to show on the next slide. It's a combination of technologies forming a joint product together with IBM. And it's the first fully unified hybrid cloud data management solution for the OSDU data platform. Naturally, we have the OSDU community code at the core, which is a collection of microservices and APIs, if you want. And that builds the data foundation together with the control plane IBM is adding on top, which enable us together with capabilities to search and access the data to provide a production-grade OSDU, a data platform which is ready for business. If we go to the left-hand side of the slide, you see the digital services. This is the single unified repository in the middle to look at all the data. We can ingest data and information from many workflows and many business processes. And we're having key extensions to enable end user workflows, which applications which are compatible to OSDU. We have workflows to unlock efficiencies. This has been stressed out by Darius as well as Dennis in the earlier presentations. It's all about generating business value for the end user. With the OSDU by Schlumberger and IBM, you have capabilities to create, capture data from existing sources, QC it, quality control, get data fit for purpose for your global audience to consume the data in place. You have the workspace to ingest, to search, visualize, and analyze your data. And you can liberate the data into any of the applications which are compatible with OSDU and transport the results back into your single repository. In the next slide, I'm highlighting a few of the enablements which are provided. We are catering for in-country and on-premise deployment, as mentioned before. The core of our platform is derived from the OSDU community code, and that will not change going forward. We have an added control plane. We use OpenShift, as Darius stressed out in his presentation. We have Schlumberger data management toolkits and appropriate DDMSs on top of that, allowing efficiency gains and new workflows. And all that is deployed into a single environment. And we also cater for capabilities for agile patches in sprints or in Scrum sessions. We can work on these and make OSDU fit for your purposes and you to create the maximum business value for you. And we have also comprehensive managed services which you can take advantage of, because OSDU is not only install of technology. If we go to the next slide, it's really a move to a modern data business system or data environment with a paradigm shift in technology and solution architecture. So deploying OSDU is not a light refresh of your technologies, because it's a single unified data repository where you can look at all your data sources. You can integrate information from many workflows and business processes. You can work on multiple user interfaces. You can work on mobile. You're not restricted to a desktop anymore. You can look at all your data in context. You can look at valuable metadata and get the maximum information out of your collected data, which gives you trust in your data and also in the decision-making processes associated with it. You can apply compute on the data in place, so you don't have to download large and extensive packages of data, which brings quality to the data itself. You can seamlessly stream it into your data into application. You can you don't have to move your data. There's no import and export needed to and from the repository. You can collect quality control and create more content than before. And it's all supported by automation and intelligence in data management to unleash more efficiencies for your individual teams and for you as a business in total. You have also access to low-code and no-code environments to establish complex workflows, and that will for sure transform your decision-making into an insights-driven business environment. Thank you very much again for having me, and I think Dennis, Darius, and myself are open for questions, followed by a short poll at the end of this presentation.
Thank you very much, Alex, for the presentation. And we're open now to have questions from the audience. But before that, we have our last and final poll. Final poll is open really for all the three speakers to comment on. So if we start with Alexander, do you have comments on this? On these results?
Yeah, I think we addressed the data migration complexity and future state support. I manage the managed services we're providing in combination with IBM for clients who are in the regions with data residency issues and or restrictions. So I think we have a very comprehensive offering, and Darius, correct me if I'm wrong, which caters for these environments where we have also a large set of services which come together with our offering, because it's really not plug and play what we're doing here. It includes also change management. And I can speak from experience. I mean, I was introducing holistic, then integrated, in between cutting edge technology, now disruptive. But with the first four buzzwords, I believe, we were addressing isolated workflows. We were optimizing workflows for specific domains. What we're doing now is really addressing the business as a whole and generating efficiencies across the board, which really takes a considerable amount of change management as well.
Indeed, I can only echo Alex's sentiment, and particularly in recognition that oil and gas are the natural treasures of the countries that quite appropriately protect not only the resource itself, but also data related to this resource, and therefore have corresponding regulatory regulations that the solution that we delivered together with Schlumberger is addressing and meeting those regulatory requirements in a very effective way. So,
thank you. We'll start taking some questions if you don't mind. And my first question really is to Dennis. And NOCs have important mandate to develop local technology ecosystems. So would the OSDU adoption by those NOCs make local technology companies and vendors less competitive?
Thank you, Abdulatif. This is a very deep question, and I think that's touching on this broader responsibility of typical national energy companies. And it's very important for MENA region, for the Gulf Coast, especially, where the companies like KOC, ADNOC, Saudi Aramco, and PDO, and so on and so forth, OQ, are really being seen as engines that should pull the entire country technology ecosystem forward, especially with the very ambitious and important plans that the governments are setting forth for the technology development in countries. Okay, I think it's a huge opportunity for local technology ecosystems, but also it's a threat. So if those companies feel cozy in their relationships and they, using arbitrary architecture, and they serve one specific customer, then it's a big threat for those guys. Okay. However, if the companies, both big and small, see OSDU as a huge opportunity, and indeed it's the case, and they start to develop their applications based on microservices, based on separation of data and the core of applications, that they think about integration with other tools, even from such majors like Schlumberger. I think it will be huge competitive advantage for them. And because of my work, I do deal a lot with Russian startups, and the best of them, the more broad-minded, more ambitious, they definitely see OSDU as an opportunity rather than a threat. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. If Alex and Darius have any additional comments or would like to add on this, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'll go to my next question. So my next question is to Alex. Why is open data platform so important to the oil and gas industry, and especially or more specifically the NOCs? And do you think this will accelerate innovation?
Absolutely. I think we all agree here in this panel that we help to accelerate innovation, because you don't have to focus on the common data platform anymore. That's delivered by a consortium of industry leaders who are adding new technologies as we speak. You saw the roadmap from Dennis. We're going well beyond subsurface in the next couple of years or months even, and expand the reach. So you don't have to carry the weight and the burden and the TCO and whatever of your own data platform anymore. That's handled by an industry open forum. You can contribute if you want, but you're not forced to. You can consolidate data sources here, there, and you can connect processes which you can't connect in a standard data environment of the 90s or the last 10 years. So with that, you free resources and capabilities for unique needs of an NOC, and that can be around investment attraction, acreage utilization, long-term asset management. You've seen new energy, governance, reporting of national data, and so on and so forth. You can really use an ecosystem as the fundament to push your own digital transformation and innovate on top.
Yes. I'd like to add one comment that sure. Which is tied to IBM becoming a company with Red Hat that is really fully adopting open source approach. We see the speed and quality of code development is really increasing because you have much broader set of contributors, testers, validators that you could, in any case, within the four walls of your company. So that's why adopting this open source mindset, I think it's putting acceleration on the turbocharge. So it's a very important trend in the industry, across different industries, really.
Thank you, Darius. We have a question from Takin. What has been the experience so far from the culture of secrecy within the industry? So again, I'll open this question to everyone to answer. So I see.
I was sure Dennis will take that one.
Dennis.
I think it's a fantastic question. It's so close to heart. I'll tell you a story. So. And thank you very much for Manusha for asking this question. So my story is when we're launching the dedicated OSDU project in Gazprom Neft, we had a huge challenge from our IT security guys. And somehow they have read somewhere between the lines that OSDU will take all of or some of our data and will put it in the public cloud. Really, I don't know where they got it from and how they translated it into Russian. But we spent significant amount of time showed this contract, the actual user agreement of OSDU to our IT security department, saying that nobody can take our data from us in OSDU, okay? There's no way for consortium to mandate or demand any contribution, be it a contribution of data, of code, or of people's time, okay? It's solemnly a decision of a member company, okay? So, great question. And we would be very happy actually to share our experience, our Gazprom Neft experience, in terms of how our thinking about data privacy evolved upon joining OSDU. At the same time, we haven't changed our core principles. All of our data is stored on premise, and we definitely see OSDU as useful tools, platform tools, standards, but Gazprom Neft is not releasing its data nowhere. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Denis. Darius, Alexander, any more insight on this?
I heard the same sentiment or objection against OSDU from other NOCs as well we're working with. There's literally a fear that if you join OSDU, you have to open source all your data. And we're talking here about the operational data, which is highly secure. And that is not the case. That's absolutely not the intention of OSDU to get a hold of data of NOCs and IOCs all around the world. It's about sharing a vision. It's about building a common data platform. And if you have source code to contribute, of course, the OSDU is more than happy to take your source code, if it's valid, and incorporate into the next or in one of the next OSDU releases. But nobody's after private data in the OSDU forum.
Denis and Alex said it very well. So the only thing I would add is not only the data is not compromised, but also the best practices and the work processes are not exposed through participation in this initiative. All this initiative is doing is really accelerating the time and improves quality of providing oil and gas companies with a data platform that would allow them to get the data out of the hard to get into silos and make the data productive and feeding their own tools of choice for the best decision making. So it's a very secure initiative, really, and make a lot of business sense, as we are hearing from a number of the companies that already joined and those who are planning to join.
But perhaps the first word of the initiative, the open, maybe this is the one who triggers this fear. You know, when it says open, so it means everyone can access it, and everyone can see everything, and everyone can get whatever is inside. So. Yeah, maybe that's it. There's a question to Denis from Ivan. Denis, you mentioned that Rosendra started participating in OSDU. So do you know, are there any plans of Rosendra to share public available Russian geoscience data?
Yes, thank you, Ivan. I'm actually typing you an answer, but it's good for Abdulatif to just to voice it up. That's perfectly fine. So, and I think it's very characteristic of what other government regulators are thinking. Okay, so Rosnedra hasn't made a decision to adopt OSDU. Okay, what they're looking to get or to build or to adopt, they're looking to adopt a data sharing platform that uses, quote, a global standards. Okay, so this Russian Subsoil Use Agency has not married, so to speak, to OSDU principles yet. But what they voiced up to key industry players, that such platform inside of Russia is needed, and they're engaging the key players in the conversation what architectural standards, what data standards we should use. Okay, and OSDU is definitely on the table, but this decision hasn't been made yet.
Thank you, Denis. I'm cautious of the time, and I know there are many questions really we can go through, but because of the time. So I'll take this one last question from Digital Transformation and Technical Services. Does OSDU cover unstructured data, such as documents? So again, the answer is open to everyone to... So who would like to start answering this? Yes, Denis.
I can take it. So inside of OSDU platform, there's a number of technologies to store data. For example, in Gazprom Neft, we use S3, and we use some other sources of information. So at least in Gazprom, we do have an ability to store unstructured data such as documents. The real question is, how do you look inside? How do you parse these files? How do you parse this information? How you can use it, for example, for search? And this is something that we're currently working on, I should say.
Thank you, Dennis.
From a perspective, we're working on such technologies, and these have to be tailored for each specific need to some extent. So we have a workflow which addresses unstructured data, and we're addressing these kind of challenges in what we call innovation factory engagements, which is 1 or 2 week engagements with a specific client to look at the unstructured data, which is at client side, and then work together with the client to find the best solution, how to address this unstructured data problems, and actually what's the value you can generate from the unstructured data, which is everywhere in each client we're working with.
Thank you, Alex. So I'd like really to thank everyone attended this webinar, and thank the speakers for the insights, the information provided, and it's been really a pleasure to listen to all of you. I personally have learned a lot from this, very short webinar. Really, I think we need more time to understand better, about this initiative and how it works, and the benefits of these initiatives to everyone involved in the oil and gas sector. So it's a privilege for Energy Institute really to have the expert speakers tonight with us. And if I may invite Darius from IBM really to close this webinar. Darius, your last word.
Thank you, Abdulatif, and thank you, Alex and Dennis. Indeed, as Alex have mentioned, in the OSDU community, we are quickly becoming close friends and collaborators. And especially I wanted to thank the audience for joining this great event organized by Energy Institute. And for those who are not yet part of the OSDU initiative, I would very welcome you to it. In the meantime, please join the global, NOC outreach that Dennis is leading. Is the very effective way of getting more insight into what this data platform can do for your company. Test the waters before you go swimming, so to speak. It has been a pleasure speaking and meeting with you today. Thank you all, and have a good day and a good evening.
Thank you.
Same to you and everybody in the audience. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for participation, and so nice to speak along such a distinguished panel.